The courts just handed Trump the biggest election integrity win yet. There's a reason the Democrat Party has been fighting with everything it has, every legal maneuver, every activist judge, every state attorney general, every civil rights organization it controls to block one single executive order from the pen of Donald J. Trump. They're fighting it not because they're concerned about disenfranchisement or discrimination or any nonsense like that. They're fighting this executive order because if it stands, it will dismantle the single most important structural advantage the Democrat Party has built into American elections over the last 2 decades. And as of today, that structural advantage has just imploded. Stick them to the very end of this video because we're going to find out exactly why the left is in full-scale panic and exactly why they should be. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change this nation and the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. So let's start with the executive order itself. It's technically called Executive Order 14399, signed by Trump on March 31st of this year. It's titled Ensuring Citizenship Verification and Integrity in Federal Elections. And the order does 3 things. First, it directs the Department of Homeland Security in coordination with the Social Security Administration to compile a state citizenship list for each state, a verified roster of confirmed U.S. citizens over 18 who are eligible to vote in federal elections, drawn from federal citizenship and naturalization records. Second, it directs the U.S. Postal Service to initiate rulemaking to impose stricter controls on mail-in voting, specifically requiring that mail-in and absentee ballots be delivered only to voters enrolled with the United States Postal Service for that purpose and only to voters appearing on each state's approved citizenship list. And then third, it includes correction procedures requiring that individuals be able to access, update, and correct their information if they believe they've been erroneously excluded. Now, of course, the Democrats have been appealing this. They started appealing this before the ink even dried on Trump's signature. And they've basically been arguing, and I kid you not, that the federal government has no jurisdiction over the mail-in ballot policies of the states. Now, keep in mind, it was just a few years ago that Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker of the House back then, was trying to do precisely that, to mandate mail-in ballot access for every single person in the country. Thankfully, it went nowhere. But the problem with that view, as the Trump administration's lawyers have been arguing, is that mail-in ballots require use of the Federal Postal Service. Mail-in ballots require use of the Federal Postal Service. And it's the federal government that has both the authority and the responsibility to regulate how that federal postal system is used in the conduct of federal elections. So that's what's so key here. Mail-in ballots depend on the use of a federal agency, the U.S. Postal Service, and it is the federal government that has every right to regulate that process. So this is not some radical legal theory. It's a straightforward application of federal authority over federal infrastructure. Well, as of today, a federal judge agreed. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, a Trump appointee, refused to grant the preliminary injunction that a number of Democrat operatives had jointly demanded. And his reasoning was legally precise and politically devastating for the plaintiffs. In fact, you're not going to believe this. He specifically rejected as, quote, speculative, the Democrats' argument, I kid you not, that citizenship lists would exclude Democrat voters. They literally admitted it in court. Citizenship lists would inaccurately exclude Democrat voters. The Democrats actually argued that a citizenship list would exclude Democrat voters. You just have to let that hit you. They are openly admitting that they depend on voters who are not listed among registered citizens in a confirmed citizen database. And the judge was like, well, Sucks to be you. Now, of course, this ruling does not end the legal battle. It's most likely to go all the way to the Supreme Court. But what Judge Nichols did today is critically important. He established that this Trump EO, this executive order, is on its face legally defensible and fully constitutional. The President of the United States has the right to regulate the mail-in ballot. He has the jurisdiction to regulate mail-in ballots if such ballots use the federal post office. Now, why are the Democrats flipping out over this? I don't even know. I don't even think we have to ask that question. But just as part of our analysis, why are the Democrats flipping out? I mean, think about it. Why is the entire Democrat Party leadership literally panicking over this one EO? First off, because mail-in voting has become structurally essential to the Democrat electoral ground game in a way that has no equivalent on the Republican side. And the numbers tell the story very clearly. Nearly 1 in 3 Americans, 48 million Americans, cast mail-in ballots in the 2024 general election. In California alone, more than 80% of all ballots were cast by mail. And while the historical research prior to 2020 showed little partisan advantage to mail-in voting, something fundamental changed when Democrats decided to make it their primary mobilization strategy during the COVID pandemic, and they've never reversed course. So by June of 2020, surveys were already showing a nearly 20 percentage point partisan gap between Democrats and Republicans in preference for voting by mail, a gap that has only widened since. In Virginia, in 2024, 73% of ballots received after Election Day. By the way, that's going down as well via a Supreme Court decision we're waiting for any day. But 73% of ballots received after Election Day went to Kamala Harris. 73%. In New Jersey, registered Democrats accounted for 48% of post-election day mail ballots versus just 18% for Republicans. So what this means structurally is that the Democrat Party has built its entire get-out-the-vote operation around low-propensity voters who would not turn out in person but can be harvested through mass mail-in ballot distribution, a system that depends on ballots going to every registered address, regardless of whether the registrant is a citizen or still alive or still a resident at that address. The activist organizations fighting this EO are fighting it because they know that a verified citizenship list cross-referenced with federal databases and then used by the United States Postal Service to gate ballot delivery closes the system, this whole systemic. It closes the systemic gaps that their ground game depends on exploiting. That advantage, as we speak, has now been confirmed by a court decision. That advantage has just been decimated by Trump. I mean, this is a butter the popcorn level defeat for the Democrat. Or forget the popcorn. You know what? You want to try dumping some of this wonderful chocolate powder in your coffee, and your body's going to start pumping out 80% more of the molecule that won the Nobel Prize. This is Black Forest high flavanol cocoa. This is amazing stuff. By age 40, your nitric oxide levels drop to about half of what they were at 20. By 60, just 15%. Heart disease, the leading cause of death, it's driven by poor blood flow and low nitric oxide. Here's Dr. Nathan Bryan explaining it.
One crucial molecule can impact our health, brain function, and longevity.
That molecule is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule in the human body, which regulates things like blood flow and oxygen delivery. And the loss of nitric oxide production is the earliest event in the onset progression of age-related causes.
That sluggish feeling isn't just aging, it's low nitric oxide. Cocoa flavanols can help restore it. In fact, in one study, 7 days of use boosted blood flow by nearly 80%. Now, here's the thing. Most chocolate won't help. Processing destroys up to 90% of the flavanols. That's exactly why I switched to Black Forest high flavanol cocoa. One scoop delivers 1,200 milligrams of cocoa flavanols, about 10x more than most brands and even higher than clinical doses. I just add it to my morning coffee and I feel it in 10 to 15 minutes. See the reviews for yourself. People report more energy, better workouts, sharper focus, and improved circulation. Black Forest just went live with their Memorial Day biggest deal of the year, 50% off store-wide promo, live right now, but it's going to be gone in 48 hours. So click on that link below right now. What we have to appreciate here is just how bad things are really getting for the Democrats. It's not just this EO that's functioning as Trump's executive equivalent of the SAVE Act that John Thune and some of his Senate Republican rhino ilk refused to pass. Today's court ruling becomes even more seismic when you place it inside the full picture of what's been happening to the Democrat electoral coalition since January 2025. In many respects, the re-regulating of mail-in ballots is really just the capstone of a three-part electoral restructuring that, taken together, represents the most significant reordering of American voting demographics, literally in the modern era. And the Democrat Party strategists know it, which is why the panic you're seeing from them right now is not performative. It's real. It's existential. So let's start with the massive voter roll purges that are absolutely devastating the Democrats across the board. So since Trump's return to the White House, the administration has dramatically accelerated the use of existing federal law, specifically the National Voter Registration Act's list maintenance provisions and the more aggressive tools unlocked by this EO to cross-reference state voter rolls against federal death records, save immigration databases, and the Social Security Administration's citizenship verification files. And the results have been staggering. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, Texas removed over 1.1 million names from its voter rolls following a federal-state data sharing agreement, the largest single-cycle purge in Texas's history. And I'll let you guess which party was the most affected by that. Georgia, which has been engaged in aggressive list maintenance for the last several years, accelerated its own purge process and removed an additional 340,000 registrations in early 2026. Again, you can take a guess which party was inordinately affected by that. Other states, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, three of the most hotly contested battleground states in the nation, they all initiated emergency list maintenance reviews within 60 days of Trump's executive order. Now, here's why this disproportionately impacts Democrats. The voter rolls that have been most dramatically inflated over the last decade, the rolls that contain the highest concentrations of outdated, unverified, and potentially non-citizen registrations, they're concentrated overwhelmingly in high-density urban counties in blue states and competitive battleground metros. So we're talking LA, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee. These are the very same counties where Democrats built their mail-in ballot harvesting infrastructure, where ballot drop boxes were deployed at the highest density in 2020 and 2022, and where the gap between registered voters and confirmed citizens has been widest, according to federal cross-reference data. When you clean those rolls, when you remove the ghost registrations, the deceased voters, the move-away voters, and the non-citizen registrations that have accumulated over years of minimal list maintenance, you are surgically removing the inflated margin that the Democrat ground game was built to exploit. And then on top of that, you've got the mass deportation dimension. And this is where the story becomes truly transformative in its electoral implications. Since January 2025, the Trump administration has deported upwards of 3 million individuals. That's according to their own, that's according to the Homeland Security stats. That's a pace that represents the most aggressive immigration enforcement in American history by orders of magnitude. The administration's own figures put that cumulative deportation since January 2025 to just over 3 million, with the monthly pace accelerating rather than decelerating through the first half of 2026. Now, obviously, the reason that's so significant is because non-citizen voter registration, in some cases non-citizen voting, has been occurring in the exact demographic and geographic profile of the Democrat base. So the cumulative effect of voter roll purges, deportation-driven population shifts, and the new citizenship-gated mail-in ballot system, it's not any one single dramatic event. It's a slow, structural, and entirely legal dismantling of the demographic foundation that the Democrat Party has been quietly building for the last 20 years. And unlike a campaign strategy, which can be adjusted cycle to cycle, a demographic foundation, once removed, does not come back. And as of today's court decision, that demographic foundation has just imploded. Hey, if you have ever wondered what it looks like when we go completely off platform, no algorithms, no big tech sensors, just raw, honest conversation about faith, family, and freedom, that is Turley Walks. Scan the QR code for a completely free preview. It is the content I simply cannot put on YouTube. Come see for yourself.